Today I'm going to be reading J.J. Rabbit and the Monster. One morning, J.J. Rabbit looked out of his burrow. He saw some footprints in the sand. Great big round footprints, he called to Mo. Did you see who made these great big round footprints on my burrow last night? No, said Mo. I was busy hunting for worms. J.J. called to Owl. Did you see who made these great big round footprints on my burrow last night? No, said Owl. I was flying over the field. J.J. called to Squirrel. Did you see who made these big, great, brown footprints outside my barrel last night? No, said Squirrel. I was away visiting my cousins. Was nobody here last night, said J.J. Was I all alone? All alone with a monster outside my barrow? He was beginning to feel a bit frightened. The animals all studied their footprints. They're big, said Mo. They're round, said Owl. They're strange, said Squirrel. They're scary, said JJ. And they're outside my barrel. That night, JJ couldn't sleep. He imagined all sorts of monsters and giants clumping about, making footprints in the sand. Outside his barrel, he tossed and turned until he was quite worn out. Then he heard a strange noise. Clump, clump, clump. It grew louder and louder. Clump, clump, clump. Now it was right outside his door. Poor JJ was frightened to look. He lay shivering under his bedclothes. He was still there in the morning, and Mo came to find him. It came again, JJ told Mo. The monster came again? And I was all alone in my barrel. Anything could have happened. JJ was trembling to the tips of his whiskers. Mo called Owl and Squirrel, and they all studied the footprints again. They're very big, said Mo. They're very round, said Owl. They're very strange, said Squirrel. And very, very, very scary, said JJ. The other animals agree that the footprints were very, very, very scary indeed. That night, Mo, Owl, and Squirrel decided to stay with JJ to try to see the monster. After supper, they all crowded into his burrow. Nobody was feeling very brave. They waited. Every time a twig snapped or a leaf rustled, JJ dived under his bed. They waited and waited until Mole and Squirrel were almost asleep. Then they heard a strange noise. Clump, clump, clump. It came closer and closer. Clump, clump, clump. It's coming to get me, squeaked JJ. It's right outside, whispered Squirrel. Go and look, said Mole. No, you go and look, said Squirrel. We'll all go and look together, said Owl. The animals crept towards the door. Together they opened the door. A tiny crack just enough to peep out. What is it? Said Squirrel. Who did not dare to look? I don't know, said Mo, her eyes tightly shut. It's a monster, it's a monster, squeaked JJ, his paws over his eyes. I was the only one brave enough to look. He flung open the door. It's Badger! He cried. Sure enough, it was Badger. He was carrying a huge bundle. Clump, 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 went the bundle, leaving big round marks in the sand. The marks looked exactly like footprints. What are you doing? asked Squirrel. Moving house, puffed Badger. There's always such a lot of stuff to carry when you move house. JJ thought you were a scary monster, said Owl. He was frightened. So we stayed the night with him. I wasn't frightened, said Squirrel. Neither was I, said Mole. It's only Badger after all, said Owl. Yes, said JJ, looking at the marks the bundle had left in the sand, but it might have been a monster. JJ Rabbit and the Adventure. I'm bored, said JJ. One day I feel like an adventure. An adventure? Asked Mole. What's that? It's when you go somewhere new and something exciting happens, said JJ. Owl told me. I think I feel like an adventure too, said Mole. Let's go together, said JJ. And scamper off into the wood. Wait for me! Called Mole. They bumped into Squirrel. Where are you two going in such a hurry? He asked. We're looking for an adventure, said Mole. Looking for what? Asked Squirrel. An adventure, said JJ. It's when you go somewhere new and something exciting happens. Can I come too? Asked Squirrel. Only if you don't run too fast, said Mole. The animals followed a path which twisted and turned through the wood. Are we there yet? Panted Mole. Not yet, said JJ. How will we know when we're there? Said Mole. When we're somewhere new, said Squirrel. When something exciting happens, said JJ. The animals walked until they reached the end of the wood. But they didn't find an adventure. Then they walked past a field of corn and through the field of turnips. But nothing exciting happened. They walked for miles and miles. They walked past a field of cows and over a little bridge. I'm tired of looking at adventures, said Squirrel. I didn't think adventures were such a long way, said Mole. Can we stop for a rest now, JJ? Asked Squirrel. JJ? Squirrel looked back along the path and JJ had disappeared. Mole and Squirrel looked behind trees and under bushes, but there was no JJ. Suddenly, Squirrel stood still. Listen, he said. What's that? What's that? Said Mole. Shh, whispered Squirrel. A small voice was calling, Help! Help! Help me! Mole and Squirrel followed the voice back along the path to the bridge. Help! It called again. The voice was getting louder and louder. It's JJ! Cried Squirrel. Mole and Squirrel looked down over the bridge. There was poor JJ stuck fast in the mud. Help! He squealed. I can't move. It's all right, cried Mole. We'll save you. Squirrel found a long, strong stick and held it out to JJ. JJ grabbed the stick with his paws and held it tight. Mole and Squirrel held the other end and pulled and pulled and pulled. At last there was a loud scratch and an even louder plop, and JJ was free. Poor JJ, said Mole. What happened? I just came to get a drink. JJ shivered. I don't know the mud would be so squelchy. The sun was sinking lower and lower in the sky. It was starting to get dark. I don't want to look for adventures anymore, said JJ. I want to go home. I don't think there are any adventures out here, said Mole. Which way is home? Asked JJ. Over the bridge, past the field of corn, and through a field of cows, said Squirrel. Oh, what are There's a bridge past the field of cows, and then through the field of turnips and more slowly. You mean you don't know? Said JJ. You mean we're lost? More shivered. I don't like being lost, she said, especially not in the dark, said Squirrel. I want to go home, wailed JJ. It was getting darker and darker. Suddenly they heard a strange noise, a rustling noise. What's that? Whispered Squirrel. It's a wolf, cried Mole. There was more rustling, followed by a swooshing noise. Help! Squeaked JJ. There was another swoosh. An owl slid down from the sky. Oh, Owl! Said JJ. Before you were a wolf, we've lost. Squirrel doesn't know the way home, said Mole. Nor does Mole, said Squirrel. Oh dear, chuckled Owl. It's lucky I flew by. Three very tired and bed-wrecked animals followed Owl as they led the way. Soon they were nearly home. Look, there's Badger, said Mole. Badger was snuffling about looking for slugs. Where have you been? He said. We've been looking for an adventure, said JJ. But we couldn't find one, said Mole. We walked for miles, said JJ. When I got stuck in the mud. Then we got lost, said Squirrel, and Mole thought there was a wolf, but Owl came and saved us, cried Mole happily. So you see, said Squirrel, there wasn't time for an adventure. No, said JJ with a big yawn. But if we get up early tomorrow, then we might find a real adventure.